Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Not Your Average Josh back here for another movie review, and today I'm here to review the new movie, The Amazing Maurice, a second movie to come out recently about a cat, which I think actually was probably a detriment for this movie. Of course, if you've seen Puss in Boots and how well that's done at the movie theaters, I absolutely adored that movie. Didn't get around to ever reviewing it. I just really enjoyed that movie in a lot of different ways. But you have this movie about another animated movie about a cat, and this time it's The Amazing Maurice, played by Hugh Laurie, directed by Toby Ginkel and Florian Westerman, and the screenplay was by Terry Rossio. But before I get into my main review here, I do want to say leave a like, leave a comment. If this is your first time watching any of my videos, hit that subscribe button. Any support is very much appreciated. You can follow me on TikTok, you can add me on Snapchat, where I will post content similar to this, but for the most part, my content will be here on this YouTube channel, Not Your Average Josh. But let's get back into the review of The Amazing Maurice. This story follows Maurice, a goofy streetwise cat who has a perfect money-making scam. He finds a silly-looking kid who plays a pipe and has his very own horde of rats who are strangely literate, and things end up taking a turn for the worse as they happen upon this town with nefarious happenings going on. This movie I hadn't really heard much about, honestly. I didn't even know it was coming out until I saw that it was playing the week that I saw it. So, you know, I didn't really have any expectations at all for this movie. Didn't even know the cast going into this. I was completely kind of a blank slate with this. I don't even think I saw a trailer for this at all. Just going into this, hoping for the best for this movie. And I will say this movie is all right overall. I really do wish I enjoyed it more, particularly because I do love animation when it's done very well. As I mentioned, Puss in Boots was just out, and I really loved just what they did with that story and the character. Here, I think my biggest flaw, my biggest trepidation with this movie is the fact that the character Maurice, I just did not care about him. Honestly, overall, he's, you know, of course, Amazing Maurice. He is the character we follow throughout this movie, who was supposed to be the main central force that we're rooting for, and I just never felt a connection with him at all. It wasn't that he was a bad character, he had bad lines or anything. He was fine, really, I guess, overall. I just was never wanting to see where his journey was going with this. How my interest was really focused on this group of rats that Maurice hangs around, where he's involved with this scam, as I mentioned in the description, where they go from town to town and pretend like it has a rat infestation. They end up taking a lot of their stuff and moving on to a different town. Just this kind of funny little scheme that you might see in a movie like this. All that was fine. Everything really within the story I thought was entertaining enough, but I just thought, you know, as the movie was going on, I just kind of felt this sense of I wanted more. There was more I wanted to get out of this movie, and not that, you know, it needed to be some intellectual movie or anything like that, but Maurice, I just felt he wasn't charismatic enough, and there was parts of his personality that were just not likable. He came off as kind of a dick sometimes, not gonna lie. I just didn't feel like there was any redeeming qualities to some of those lesser personality traits. Now, I don't know, maybe that's getting into a little bit too technical with this movie. It's just a simple animated film, but that's really, I think, where my biggest criticisms lie with this movie. As far as, again, just the story, it's a fun little story overall. There are times where I think the content does get a little, maybe some content that is more suited for older kids, I think. As this movie goes on, there's just certain story elements that I think maybe younger kids won't be able to grasp as well, which is fine. You know, in most animated movies, there's going to be that humor or just content that is going to be more understandable for adults and older kids. But I just thought there was a little too much of just some dull moments. There's just scenes where I just, like I said, I wasn't as engaged or entertained as I might have wanted to be. I thought, you know, there was times where I was just wanting a little more out of the story, something to really connect me more, and that's just where it kind of fell flat for me. All the voice acting for this movie I thought was really well done, even though I do have my criticisms about the character Maurice. Hugh Laurie, who plays Maurice, I thought was really good in this. I haven't really seen him in much else. I never watched the show House, which I know is one of his most, if not his most famous, recognizable roles. But I thought he did a really well job in this movie for what he had to do. And even all the little mice characters, they were definitely my favorite part of this movie. You got David Thewlis as Boss Man, who plays this really, really fun character that I had a good time with. You have Himesh Patel, who plays Keith, not the rat character, but I thought he did well enough in this movie. I did feel like more or less his character was just kind of there. But, you know, it wasn't anything that negatively impacted the movie, his character being in it. Emma Arterton, I believe that's how you say her name, as Peaches. All these rat characters had their own little personality traits that I thought were very enjoyable in their own ways. Joe Sugg as Sardines maybe was my favorite character. Just some of the line delivery was just humorous at times to me, and also kind of like badass in a way. He might have just been my favorite character. David Tennant as Dangerous Beans, though. Him and Sardines, they were probably my favorite characters, I will say. But Dangerous Beans, it was just, again, just humorous lines, but then also some badass lines. And I don't know, I just really was like interested in their characters every time they were on the screen. Every time Maurice would show up, I don't know, just something about his characters felt kind of dull or just not likable. Like, I just didn't find his character likable. And I think that's a huge problem when your movie is called The Amazing Maurice. You know, if it had another title, maybe it would have been looked at maybe in a better light for me, because it would have been all right to focus on the rats more. But when you have the title being The Amazing Maurice, again, that's just where I'm kind of like, this disconnect with this movie, and it's not making me really ever want to go back and seeing it, if I'm being honest. But again, I think, you know, some of the biggest positives is the voice acting in this movie. The story is well enough done. I don't think it's a bad story. It's fairly intricate at times. Someone also did not mention Emilia Clarke as Militia. She plays a human character in this who is helping the rats in this town. She's the daughter of the mayor of this town, and, you know, again, it's just another fine part of the story. That's what I kind of feel about most of this movie. It's fine, entertaining enough. I think there are going to be some kids who probably it develops a cult following with as they get older. But overall, honestly, as unfortunate as it is, when I got to the end of this movie, I was just kind of wishing I'd watched Puss in Boots again. And I don't know, that's just more of a personal thing. I just didn't connect with this movie like I maybe would have wanted to. I think there's a lot of potential with this movie, but I think in the end, it just didn't stick the landing with me overall. That's my quick, brief little thoughts on this movie. I think it'll be a fun little animated movie for a lot of kids, but I think they are going to find a disconnect with it. And that's really where I fall for the most part with this movie. I am in the middle on it. I'm not able to give a full recommendation, but I don't dislike it to the point where I would give it a full non-recommendation. If you're interested in it at all, I would say go check it out. It might hit you very well. I will say the ending of this movie is fairly badass. There's this fight scene that takes place. That was the most part where I was really engaged and entertained. And I thought there was a lot of color added just to the display on the screen, the color palette that was used. I thought, okay, this movie maybe needed a little more of this. I'm going to give The Amazing Maurice a 5 out of 10. Didn't hate it, didn't love it, really just flat in the middle on this movie. Leave a like, leave a comment. What do you think about this movie? I love hearing people's thoughts. If this is your first time watching any of my videos, you can hit that subscribe button. That is very much appreciated as well. You can follow me on TikTok, you can add me on Snapchat, where I will post content similar to this, but for the most part, my content will be here on this YouTube, Not Your Average Josh. Be looking for more videos very soon, and I will talk to you guys later.